What's up, everybody? Hope you had an incredible summer. Hope you've had an incredible couple weeks of school. Some of you started probably a month ago. Some of you started a couple weeks ago. You just had some Labor Day vacation, so hopefully you went somewhere and did something. But we're kicking off tonight in-house groups, and I'm so pumped about where we're heading this fall. And we're actually going to start a new series talking about friendships, and it's called Through the Fire. And so we're going to be looking at friendships and how friendships are so important. And with school starting, friendships can get weird. Friendships that lasted in the summer or started in the summer could end during the school year. So what I want you to do real quick is take 2 to 3 minutes and talk about this question. With the new year starting in school, how does that impact your friendships? All right, so does it make older friendships change? Do you have any new friends that you're excited about? Maybe ones that you are hoping that they'll become your friends. So take a few minutes, talk about how that's going to start in school. So hopefully you are encouraged and you're making new friends, or friendships that you had are going to continue. Maybe if you started high school this year, that you might have shifted schools from some of your close friends, and that can be tough, that can be difficult. But this series, we're looking at this idea of friendships and how through the tough times, man, friendships can flourish and friendships can be there to help you. At some point during this year, you're going to walk through a difficult time, maybe less so awesome grade on a test that you had, or maybe for some of you, that crush that you want to ask to the dance this year is going to say no. And so hopefully you have friendships in place to help you walk through those, or maybe even some more serious things. Maybe later this year or at some point in this year, your parents might go through a divorce, or you might lose a loved one. We all go through difficult situations, and having friendships is so crucial. I think about back in middle school when I was living in Kentucky. I just moved my 6th grade year, and in 7th grade, I met one of my best friends that went to my church. And we only saw each other on Sundays, actually the entire weekend, because we would always go to one of each other's houses, whether it be mine one weekend, his the other, and we would hang out and we would spend the entire weekend, and then school would hit. But having that friend help me get through the week. Maybe you can relate. Maybe you have a best friend at a different school and you're like, let me just get to Friday. And if I can get to Friday, I know I can hang out with so-and-so. Maybe you can relate. But that friendship meant so much to me because when I was going through a tough time, I could text him or I could call him, or I knew that, hey, it's Thursday, tomorrow I'm going to go to, his name was Chris, we called him Topher because his name was Christopher. Okay, maybe you get it. But I knew that Topher was going to be there on Friday, and we would go to the football game, or we'd go to his house and swim, or my house, do something stupid, but just have fun. Friendships are important. Friendships matter. And what I want to do tonight is I want to look at a story in the Bible. It's probably one of the well-known friendships in the Bible, and it's between a guy named Jonathan and David. And some of you might know these two guys are pretty big names. And if you think about David, most of you would be like David and Goliath. The dude picked up some stones, threw them, hit a guy in the forehead, he died, cut off his head. You get it, right? Some of you are there. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. Some of you might not. It might be weird. But David killed Goliath. He represented God's people. And then Jonathan. Jonathan is the son of Saul, who was the king of Israel. Pretty big deal. That means you're a prince. That means you're going to inherit the kingdom. And so here's the stage. You have Saul, who's been the king for a long time, has a lot of power. And when that happens, you kind of begin to get a little nervous that someone else is going to take over or what's going to happen. And so Saul was nervous that David was going to take over, but Jonathan and David were best friends, and now begins this big, difficult situation. And so maybe you can relate to that, where your parents don't necessarily love your best friend or a friend that you have, and you have to begin to walk down that in a careful, gingerly way. And so tonight, what I want you to do real quick, we're going to jump into this story in 1 Samuel chapter 18. And I want you to pause this video. I want you to read 1 Samuel chapter 18, verses 1 through 11. All right, pause this video and read. So maybe you can relate. Maybe you can see what's going on here. You have Saul, who looks at David as a threat to his throne. And you have Jonathan, who sees David as a best friend. And like I said before you read this, maybe you can relate with that your parents don't love your best friend or even the friends that you have, and you have to begin to walk down this road. But just imagine for a second if your parents said, I don't like your best friend enough that I want to kill them, right? And this is what we see here, and this is a terrifying moment, because I don't know about you, but if my parents said that, I would probably break the friendship off. I would be really concerned. I don't actually know what I would do. I don't think I would step up and be like, oh, well, let me protect him. I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'm out. But honestly, I don't even know, what would you do in that situation? Would you say, oh, I'm going to brave? But probably not, if we're all being honest. But in the middle of a really difficult situation, we see that Jonathan and David's friendship is so important to them that they begin to utilize that. They begin to show each other that they care deeply about each other. So in the next chapter, 1 Samuel chapter 19, we begin to see just a little bit of that friendship enduring through tough times. So pause this video, flip over one page, or jump to 1 Samuel chapter 19 and read verses 1 through 7. So as you can see in this passage of Scripture, Jonathan is clearly a much better friend than I would be. He steps in and he risks his own reputation. He risks relationship with his dad, maybe of his own life, to continue the relationship with his friend David. And whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, we all know what it's like to be caught in between two people, sometimes our family and sometimes our friend. And it's an uncomfortable place to be. It's not very fun, but I love the way that Jonathan handled this situation. He spoke with truth. He spoke being brave, and he stood up for his friend and called his dad out for his actions. But here's the key. He did it in a way that honored him and was respectful. He fought for peace, and if you look at the passage, or at least for a little bit, it worked. But just for a little bit, because if you flip over one chapter, and I'd encourage you to do this later, and read 1 Samuel chapter 20, verses 1 through 42, we see Saul becomes even more angrier and pursues David and tries to kill him. But no matter what, Jonathan stuck with him. Jonathan stood by his side, and he met David, and he encouraged him and helped him escape, because the trial that David and Jonathan tested as friends made them stronger. They stood in it together. And when you look at that, when you look at this, it's almost like the old illustration of a piece of steel, right? Maybe you have a dad that is handy and has told you this before, but this is a piece of steel. It's pretty solid. Like, I don't think I could break it. If I tried to break it over my leg would hurt very bad. But at the same time, it's not the strongest piece of steel in the world. You couldn't build a house on it or a building on it. And let's just say for a second that you are building a house and you have a wooden hammer and steel nails. That's not going to work so much, but you need steel nails, and you need a steel hammer, and you need all these rebar steel to build on this. And if you don't have a solid foundation, if you don't have strong steel, then it's going to be easily broken. If you have a weak piece of steel, guess what? It's going to crumble. It's going to break. But you know how you make that stronger? Surprisingly, you put it in fire. And as you put it in fire, as the steel gets to a high temperature, the composition of it makes it stronger. And the same thing's true with the story. You look at David and you look at Jonathan, and they went through the fire together. They went through a fire, and it didn't break them. It actually strengthened them. It actually made them stronger in their friendship. And so this year, my hope is that you begin to look around you and surround yourself with Davids and Jonathans. Like, if you're coming to this house group for the first time, my prayer is that you would find some friends within this house that would be there for you, that would stick it out with you, that when times get tough, they're going to fight for you and fight on your team. Because here's the reality. Sooner or later, you're going to go through a difficult time, and you're going to need friends that are willing to walk through the fire, walk through that time with you. So when that fire comes, my question to you is, who do you have by your side? Now, when that fire comes, when your friends' fires come, are you going to be willing to step in for them? Because here's what I know to be true. In the midst of difficult situations, in the midst of a fire, true friendships can be forged. So when life is at its most difficult, God hasn't left us. He's always with us. But he also gives us each other to be there for each other. He designed us to be in relationship with him and with people. So my question to you tonight, as you jump into some small group discussion is, who is your Jonathan? Who's your David? Who are your friends that you can stick by with? And if you don't have those, my prayer is that over this semester, over this next few months, that the people sitting with you in this room will become those for you. That as you walk through difficult seasons, they'll be the ones fighting right beside you to help you and push forward. So tonight, I hope you have a blast. I hope you have an incredible time. We'll see you next week at House Group, same time, same place, and we're going to continue to push down this road, this series called Through the Fire, and looking at friendships during difficult times. And before you jump into small groups, I do have one quick thing. Make sure you sign up for our fall retreat. You have 2 weeks left before the deadline ends. It's going to be an incredible getaway weekend, October 4th through the 6th. Takeajourney.life is where you go. You sign up. Man, we're going to have knocker ball. We're going to have archery tag. We're going to have high ropes, rock wall, outdoor basketball, s'mores, worship, just a time for you to escape, get away for a weekend, get away from your parents for a weekend. It's going to be an incredible time, so make sure you sign up for that. If you need more information, like I said, takeajourney.life or talk to one of our leaders in your house. So have a great night.